National Congress seems to be battling with the idea of coalitions. The party's head of political education, David Makhura, says the time for underhanded coalition governments has reached its expiry date. Also saying, although the party does not rule out going into coalitions, it should not be the main focus. Let's bring in political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou, making time for us this morning. Doctor, good to have you back with us on ANC. And I don't think the ANC has a choice. They're probably going to go into a coalition national government next year, whether they like it or not. You agree or disagree?
Good morning to you, Gareth. Good morning to the viewers at home. Well, I think the ANC appears to be facing reality. And they are also aware that the era of political dominance in South African body politic appears to be diminishing. And that is why they need to plan ahead for the 2024 elections. In 2016, during the local government elections, the ANC was quite sure that they'll still hold to political power. And that was not the case, especially in the province of Gauteng. And that is where we started seeing coalitions and their consequences thereof. And I think it is time that the ANC, having looked at their performance in the past general elections and 2 local government elections, the writing appears to be on the wall. And I think it's a good move on the part of the ANC to plan ahead, because they've actually observed the disruptive nature of coalitions in the different metros and how citizens will then become victims of the unplanned, disruptive, and disorderly coalition system. And I think what they're trying to do is to say, we still have a role to play in the national body politic, but it appears as if they cannot do it on their own or alone, and they will require coalition partners. And the sense is that it is time now to develop a roadmap towards coalition governance.
That roadmap, I imagine, just like our reality for all of us in South Africa, is going to be filled with potholes on a daily basis as well. I suppose any political party right now, Doctor, has to be very careful stating early on who they're willing to get into political bed with and who they aren't, because a lot can change between now and the elections next year. Do you really get the sense the ANC would work with everybody and anybody? And I quote David Makhura, saying that unlike the Democratic Alliance, it would not rule out the possibility of working with any party. Is that realistic, knowing the different mandates and different views of some of our parties here in South Africa?
I think my observation is that when you look at the major political parties, the ANC and the GA, they appear to be strategically trying to position themselves in a manner that they will remain relevant beyond 2024. And what the DA has tried to do is to start having alliances before the elections, so that as they move towards elections, they know exactly who they're supposed to be working with. We have had experiences in Kenya, we've had experiences in Malawi, where political parties will come together in order to form a pact so that they fight the elections together. You also have situations where these coalitions will therefore be established immediately after elections, and the experiences of South Africa are not very good. But what you need to be very sure of, especially as ordinary citizens, is the standpoint of different political parties before and after the elections. We have observed instances where some parties, when they join hands with bigger political parties, they get absorbed into the bigger political party systems, they cease to exist, and their voice is not heard anymore. And that is why when parties get into these coalitions, they need to be very cautious, because some parties are very jealous and they always want to preserve their identity.
I want to talk about what also David Makhura said, Doctor, and help me understand how important this is. Because when it comes to voter education, now potentially we're going to have over 200 options as South Africans to vote for next year, once you combine the independents as well. So I imagine then there'd be a number of laws and regulations coming in to try and manage that. One of those put forward by David Makhura when he was briefing the media, let me quote again, it's limiting the number of motions of no confidence that can be brought in within a specific period of time. You would agree with that or disagree with that? Because right now, and I'll be honest, it's difficult to keep up with what's happening in Gauteng. You're never quite sure who's in and who's in for how long in a various municipality or city.
Well, I think there should be very clear guidelines that should regulate motions of no confidence in South Africa. We have had many motions of no confidence. I know you might have lost count. When you look at the motions of no confidence that have been proposed in the 4 metros of South Africa, in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and the city of Tshwane, we have had the change of political leadership in those metros, and I know that most of the viewers would not even know who therefore is in charge of the city of Tshwane right now as you speak, because there is constant change of political leadership in those metros. Of course, the change of political leadership has huge negative implications on the runnings of those metros. And if it does happen at provincial and national level, we are not going to have any form of good governance and stability. My sense is that motions of no confidence remains relevant, provided they're actually done following all the prescripts of the law and not to be used abusively. Because if they're done abusively, like it is happening now, it compromises governance and stability in South Africa.
I couldn't agree with you more. Doctor, last question to you then. Let me bring everything back down. Apart from political parties and their wranglings, it's going to come down to the South African voter next year, those who bothered to pitch up as well. What do you think is the best way to handle this? Doing what it seems like the DA is doing, this moonshot pact. It seems to be open and transparent. Everyone knows who the DA will be in this moonshot pact with. They can vote for one of those parties, knowing one of the other parties in this moonshot pact could be part of a coalition. Or maybe some of the other parties who are saying, well, let's get through the elections first and then worry about coalitions after you have voted. What do you think is the best way to go for the South African voter next year? Last question to you.
We are actually navigating the new systems that are actually confronting us. It can also be best if parties would enter into a coalition before the elections and everything is known about their roles and responsibilities as they approach the elections. It will also be good that their principles and what they agree upon would easily be consolidated together so that when they go out to the elections, they speak the same language. But also, if you have coalitions post-elections, you also have a situation where whatever you do is dictated upon by the voter, and you have got very little choice on who to choose in terms of those that you need to cooperate with. It actually depends on the situation that is confronting you. But the best for me would be start identifying people that you can work with now so that you would be able to avoid complications post-elections.